Good evening, bonsoir. Bienvenue à la réunion plénière du 12 février. Welcome to the Committee of a Whole on February 12th. Ms. Parker, do we have any declaration of conflict of interest?
We had one conflict of interest declared by Councillor Willett with item 5.1, 2024 Bathurst Harvest Festival Corvette event.
All right, perfect. So we'll call it a presentation, but we'll be talking about the Grants Committee recommendation. Ms. Parker?
Yep. Just bear with me while I get this going. All right, so the grant committee consisting of Councillor Brunette, Councillor Scarry, and Councillor LeBlanc met on January 31st to go over the requests that we received. During the budget process, Council did approve an amount of $55,600 in order for the discretionary grants. On your screen, you'll see a breakdown of what the committee came to decide. So as you can see, they kind of split it. So $27,800 would be what would be approved next week if council is okay with what is on the screen. There would be remaining $27,800, which could be dispersed throughout the remainder of the year. If anybody has any questions, 3 councillors are here tonight also, so they can answer too.
All right, so the request that they've done is what council is in agreement for 2024.
Yeah, so the proposed amount highlighted in green, that's what council decided, the committee members.
Okay, all right, do we have any questions? Deputy Mayor Anderson?
Just a question, what is co-action? I haven't heard of them before.
Co-action is the youth group that came and did a presentation late last year. We gave them $1,000 some dollars.
Can't remember.
Yeah, it's a committee that was put in place last year. Councillor Legacy is also on the committee.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Listen and BHS students. Yes. Okay. Yeah, perfect. All right. So if there's no objections, we'll bring this next week. Perfect. Okay. Municipal bylaws 3.1 2024-04 transient traders, peddlers, vendors, and mobile truck bylaw. Ms. Parker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So item 3.1 and 3.2 kind of go hand in hand. There was a request brought late last year to recommend that the transient trader, peddler, vendor, and mobile truck bylaw be reviewed. In your package, you received a recommended version. Just to kind of sum up what we saw based on other bylaws in other municipalities, we recommend that the outdoor entertainment portion be removed from the current bylaw and be made its own bylaw. Some highlights that would be in the outdoor entertainment permits would be valid for 1 month. Renewal would be required after each month if they wish to continue. Outside entertainment should only be conducted between the hours of 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. daily. Predetermined locations were identified, which would be the Canada Park 150, which is at the corner of King and Main, and the Water Park Fountain, which is over on the corner Douglas Avenue and Queen Street. And there would be a new application form and permit form that would be specific to that bylaw. Looking at the transient trader, peddler, vendor, and mobile truck bylaw, just a few updates just to kind of make it a little easier for people who are applying and to keep things more standard. The removal of outside entertainment section, obviously. Exemption for large events. So what we've seen a lot is we're receiving a lot of permit requests for the same event. So for example, hospitality days, I had 20 requests for hospitality days, which it's a lot of time for them to fill, a lot of time for us to go through, and one permit would really cover all those events. The only exception would be if it's something involving a food item or food truck, they would need to apply separately because there is other criteria they need to submit for that. And then the application process instructions were just made a little bit more clear to them, just easier to understand, a lot more user-friendly. So those were the changes that we, based on what we've seen in other municipalities, we think would help better enforce and manage requests for these types.
Perfect. Do we have any questions for Ms. Parker? Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Some of these food trucks have been a little tender in the past with some of the people that have restaurants that are there full-time, year-round, and pay taxes year-round. And then a food truck parks a little close to their business. We had designated the Causeway as being a good spot because it's not near any businesses, but I see on St. Peter Avenue sometimes there's some that are right outside of a restaurant. And Ms. Parker, do you give them the license for that?
So in order for them to be stationed on somebody else's property, we actually need a letter from the owner. So any of the ones that you see in front of a restaurant, the restaurant actually gave permission for them to be stationed there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I see a food truck in town on the weekend, and they were taking pictures of one of the city parks. Now, whether they're going to come to you with a request to put a food truck on a city park, and it is right beside a restaurant, what's the situation with our own land, city land?
The only land that we as a city permit is the Causeway as determined previously.
That's the only one?
Yeah.
Yeah, because this was in town at a small little park that we have, and right beside a restaurant. So I was wondering if you had received an application.
I haven't received anything yet. The only time you would see any food trucks or any vendors in the parks is if there's Canada Day event hosted by us or Family Day, New Brunswick Day, things like that, but it's hosted by the city usually.
It's not that I'm against food trucks, because I think they smell awful good when you go by, too good sometimes. But you got to be fair to everybody concerned, and we have to keep that in the back burner. But when you have a big ball tournament or you have a big thing in the park, it's so nice to have those trucks around. Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so we're okay for those two. Policies. P2024-01, policy on information requests and communication made by elected officials administration. Ms. Parker. Oh, Mr. Pettigrew, sorry. I'll give you the mic.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just to give everyone an update, this is a new policy. It's a policy for information requests for communications made by elected officials and administration. So in the past, we've had requests for information for, where do we get information on a memorial bench? Who do we contact for bylaw enforcement? Who do we have? So the team put together a policy that gives information on how we go about that information, or how we go about relaying that information. So if you have a question, again, lays out the criteria for calls for complaints. I'm not sure if everyone has a chance to review it, but ultimately it'll be brought back to the meeting next week. So if you have, it's a pretty big document, review it and look at it if you have any questions. But there are some things I'd like to just kind of point out. Under sections like 4.2, if you receive a request from a resident for any other type of service, or if it's an emergency, it's important for them to contact dispatch up front. If it's an emergency related to public works, we're not going to follow this process. This is for information relaying, or not critical or not emergency. Same as 911 and fire. The information there is for general terms, really, potentially when's fire week, when's fire prevention week, some of that information, but not emergency related stuff. Another thing that's important as well is there is a timeline for response. So we have 2 days to acknowledge it, or 2 days administration would acknowledge it, and you'd get a response within 4 business days or 4 days with regards to next steps of response and timeline, depending on what kind of information is requested from council. Some of them are pretty quick. We try to do it within 1 day, but depending the extent of the information, if it's looking for a fair amount of information, it could take a couple days to put that together to respond. Another thing that's important to notice as well is this is through email. We've created Appendix A is in the back. There's a list of emails that gives in a sample. If you guys want to flip through it on Appendix A, so if there's examples of, I'm just going to go through one real quick here. We had a question with regards to parks operation for maintenance of public art, memorial bench program, parks and trail programs. The new emails were created, so it's parks@bathurst.ca. You email that, so there will be somebody that will monitor that. It's not an individual or a person. It's a general email that multiple people have access to that will be able to monitor it in case somebody's out, so you get your response back and be assigned accordingly. So I would call this a little cheat sheet of information that you request or information you have. I would keep it close. Gives you quick access to information that you're looking for. Another thing that's in the policy is that Appendix A could change, so the policy would give me the authority, the CAO, the authority to change the appendix. If we assign a different role or a different task to somebody, we would be able to just assign the email address or change the person's responsible. But we would update, of course, council with the new list and provide the information. So one of the important things as well is under section 4.14, council kind of lays out this email, and this is through an email system. It's important to realize that subject to the procedures described, only the following members of administrative should have direct email contact with the elected officials. So it's through email, the CAO, department head, city clerk's office, and the departments listed in Appendix A. So it's not a, you know, a direct phone call or a call. You have to go through an email system, which is not assigned to individuals. It's generic emails, and this is the way we can get a quick response back to the elected officials and the public if they require. Some of the information is there on how you deal with information requests from the public. But I'd recommend you go through it. If you have any questions, we can discuss it at next week's meeting as well.
All right. Deputy Mayor Anderson?
So basically, you're telling us that if somebody calls us with a complaint that's not an emergency, direct them to this email, or should we be sending the email to that email address?
In here, I can go through, if you receive a complaint, we can go through that. Actually is a specific question. That's one of the highlighted areas. If an elected official receives a concern or complaint from a resident regarding a service received or not received, the elected official is encouraged to direct the resident to contact the appropriate member of the administration. Following that, if they're not happy and appropriate with it, then you can follow the process. But it lays out a lot of those specific cases, case by case. So I'd recommend to review it, which is kind of like a little bit of a document to allow you to deal with the public with the requests and the complaints and how you process those.
All right. Councillor Willett?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that we should also add that they should also be CCing yourself as the CAO, because we've sat here in the past and said that everything should go through the CAO. Now we're taking a different route again. So I can see this snowballing into a big problem again. So basically, I got a problem with this. I think City Council used to deal through the CEO to deal with the managers, and honestly, I don't think it should change. So.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I think this is for information. So for information, it's not for direction of council to provide a direction to work on something or to, it's really for information that's routinely available. So if it's an update on who's in charge of the Memorial Bench Program, or looking for that information of where you can find applications, I think that's important. There's always the role there and the ability that if there's anything that fits outside of that, directly contact with the CAO and the department heads. And it is recommended that I get CC'd on those correspondence as well. It's just to make sure, but this will allow some of that routine information to flow a lot faster. So, you know, allow it for information, because it's not necessarily for, and again, anything that would require extra amount of time. It does say in there as well that if a department head feels that may take significant time or is outside what the request is, they provide that information to the CAO, and then I might receive direction of council if we want to move forward on a topic. So
That's fine, but I still think that you should be CC'd
CC.
on
Yeah,
all of
that's
those.
something we can add and look at making those changes.
And I think we'll be looking at this again, because I think it's gonna snowball into something that we don't really want, so.
Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor, through you to our manager. Like last week, for example, I got a request from the Heritage Museum that because Heritage Week is next, coming up on the 19th, that they would like to put that on the signboards that are downtown. So I didn't go to the communication department and ask them if they could put that on. I went to you, and then I said, well, rather than me going back to the Heritage group and then back to you and them coming back to me, I said to the Heritage Director, Nancy Culligan, could you maybe just email the manager as to what you're looking for, and then he can say yes, go to the communication department, or he'd take care of it. Is that what you want us to do?
Yeah, that's fine. This is for routine information. So it's for information. What is the plow routes? What are the information? When people receive, what are the new water rates, or what is the information? It's not for direction, or it's not for asking for, or you know, it's not saying, hey, can you we look at concentrating on this area to add this to the sign. Those requests still come through the CAO. It's for generic information of How many plow routes do we have? Do you know what the information is on where we can contact the Pavilion Gym? Where do we rent it? Who's the contact information for that? I might have a complaint for an unsightly premises from a resident. Where do I contact? Who do I send that complaint to? So it's general information. It's not specific, and it's not a direction thing. It's for information that can be not a decision of council or not something that needs to be decided on, but more of information that we have at, you know, somebody might ask how many fire hydrants, how many manholes do we have within the city of Bathurst? There might be a request, right? That would go through Mr. Abernathy, and he would be able to gather that information and provide that. So it's not about direction. Those things continue to come through the CAO directly, for sure.
Okay,
Yes.
so Nancy would still go to you, and you would go to
Yes.
the communications department to see if they could put that on the billboards.
Yeah, so that would be a request. That's for a request for a service, and which is different than for information, right? Now,
And-
if the information is how do I get something on the sign, or how do I get something through our public billboard, we could then provide the policy and the information. That would be something that could be of their request. But an actual request would be different when we discuss that, yes.
Okay, good,
Yep.
because Heritage Week is coming up quickly, and sometimes you wait, it's volunteers, so you try to help them as much as you can. So that's why I was after the manager to try to help these people get the word out that next week, and council will all get invitations to go to that, you know, so we're looking forward to that week. She's got a real good week planned for it.
Good,
Yeah.
that's exciting. For me, it'll be, can we get rid of our Christmas tree and can we still drop it at the salt shed? I don't know. I don't know, hold on. Then I called Todd, messaged Todd, can we still drop the Christmas tree over there? So it'll be perfect, so I'll use Public Works email. Can we still drop the Christmas trees by the salt shed?
Right.
Which I had no clue, but.
Yeah, and just to add to that, that's the information you're looking for, because you shouldn't have to wait for somebody, those are quick answers, that you should be able to get a response back pretty quickly. They're not emergency, but it's really to relay that information that's non-urgent to gather information, because sometimes it's available, but not easily accessible for some people, so that this way you'll be able to gather that information with a quicker response. An example would be, like I said, for the Pavilion Gym or working, if the individual is off for a week or on holidays for the memorial bench, you shouldn't have to get a no reply or do not reply for a week or a week and a half while somebody's gone. There'll be somebody that will respond and provide the information on the memorial bench. That's why we created those individual emails that will be monitored continuously.
And they're very generic emails, so which
Yeah,
is really
it'd be
good.
parks, recreation, public works at Enfance Epi and Anglais.
Right. Good,
Thank you.
perfect. 4.2, P2010-01, policy on the use of global positioning systems. Mr. Pettigrew?
Thank you, Your Worship. In the RFD, you notice really ultimately there's major changes are that we added the following sections with regards to being generic with our other policies: overview, purpose, scope, definitions, general and operating guidelines, and one change in red. There is a change there where it says the status and implement of the vehicle, so it would be on a siren if it's a police vehicle, or if it's on a fire vehicle if the sirens are on or not. We have that capability, so we updated that to adapt accordingly based on our GPS system.
All right. Does council have any questions for that one? No? Okay. Move on to P1993-03, council matters follow-up outstanding lists. Mr. Pettigrew?
Thank you, Worship. We currently had a policy under the, it's added to policy 2023, the one we just discussed, where the city clerk in the first sections will be required to create an outstanding list. So when there's information from council would like to have follow-up or more information to make a decision, there will be an outstanding list that will be maintained by the city clerk. So this policy no longer needed, because that's included in the new policy we proposed this evening.
All right. Have any questions? No? Okay. Next one is P2014-01, advertising electronic signs, Casey Irving Regional Center. Mr. Pettigrew?
Thank you, Worship. If you notice, we do a lot of work on the policies, and that was one of the mandates for 2023 and 2024 was to review all city policies. So that's why we do a fair amount on a monthly basis. So this one is no longer required, as it was replaced by policy 2021-02, city-sponsored electronic billboard signs. So there's no, we had two of the same style, or two of the same content, so we removed the one for the Casey Irving Center.
Perfect. Any questions? No? Okay. Requests, 2024 Bathurst Harvest Festival Corvette event. Ms. Parker?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is in regards to the presentation that we received during the regular public meeting January 15th. The Corvette Club is looking for funds to host their 2024 event. They are requesting an amount of $3,550 to cover costs for transportation and the reservation of 13 barrels to host their get-together. They're also looking to receive some tourism-related items to be donated for their swag bags. We are looking for direction from council on how they would like to proceed with this. The presenters are here tonight if there was any additional questions.
Councillor Burnett?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I had asked at the time if monies could be taken from the hotel levy fund, because like they are filling up 1.5, maybe 2 hotels, and this seems very appropriate. And I'm all for their requests that we should let them know now as soon as possible, so that they can start their plans and get the people that are on the other end of this working on their visit. So I'm all for their requests, both of them.
Okay, yep, they do qualify.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Oh, Councillor Legacy?
I'm just curious why this didn't go to the grants committee.
Ms. Parker? Yep, your mic's still on.
There was a discussion of having it going to the tourism levy, so that was something we had to look into, and then if they were able to, which they are, it would come to the discussion.
Okay.
Councillor Knowles?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just, what's the monetary amount they're asking again? I missed that.
$3,550.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
All right. So if council has no, oh, Councillor Burnett?
So the hotel levy fund goes to the grant committee too?
No.
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 I didn't think so.
No.
Okay.
Hotel levy is meant for,
Thank you.
okay. So if council has no objections, we are actually going to bring it next week for resolution for the full amount. You're okay with that? Okay, you have your answer. You'll be ready to go. Good news. Woohoo! Thank you. Well, this ends our meeting. I had said, oh, it's going to take us at least a half hour, but no, we didn't make it to a half hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining and being with us. Vous souhaite tous une bonne soirée.